Hey everyone, I hope you are well. This is another great entry into our Q&A series where myself, but not only just me, we're joined by the sexy producer himself, Daniel Howard, go through and answer your questions because it's not about us just sharing information, it's about answering and helping as much as we can. So without further ado, let's just jump into this. How are you doing, Dan? You okay, mate?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
Good. I am well, Daniel. I am well. It is snowing out here, so it's a nice little bit of...
It is over here as well.
There we
I was
are.
gonna say.
So, I mean, what temperatures are you at right now, then?
So yes, it's warmer today. Yesterday
Okay.
we were at -3.
-3.
Today we're all the way up at 6. So we're
6. Wow, you jumped quite a bit
I
there.
know.
Wow.
Crazy jump.
Yeah, like
What about you?
last week we were like at -20, -16. And dude, I remember I went for a walk and I just had my jeans on, and then I was just, my whole quads and everything were just freezing. I was like, why, just why? Like,
That is a crazy cold. Horrible.
yeah. So no, I can't imagine how like Russia and other places go even further down that way. So, hats off to everyone who can survive that, because I am definitely a pansy when it comes to the cold, without a shadow of a doubt. The worst. All right then, bud. So we've got many great questions from many amazing people. For those who don't know, these questions primarily come from that of our Discord and our community. If you do want to join that, you can join it through the Patreon, which will give you access to many amazing benefits. And one of those being that of actually being part of our great community, so you can chat to myself and Dan, ask your questions, and these will get the priority questions as well. So Daniel, do you want to take it away, my friend?
Absolutely. Okay, so first question we've got today is
Yes.
from Paolo Gambadea. He's asked the question before. Today it's talking about a previous level design weekend challenge.
Yes.
You did. You had the guys look at Hades as an RPG and the system. He's just asking, why did you choose that game? And why do they not tend to have great level design?
For RPGs, right? So
Yeah.
for those ones, so we'll go for the first question, why we chose Hades. The first part of that comes from the fact that we try to keep it to games that are relevant when we do our weekends, our level design weekend challenges. And Hades has obviously been a great game, especially with it being roguelike. And the second reason for that is, with it being a roguelike, that means that their levels are procedurally generated. So you'd think it's a very different way of designing, right? You have to make sure that these kind of rooms, as we call them, can be re-entered, reused multiple times. And how do you keep that fresh? How do you make it feel like it's a different run each time they visit this room, and they'll visit this room multiple times as well? So how do you challenge that? How do you use different enemies to make it that way? How do you approach it when you come in from a different angle? How does that look differently? So that's why it's kind of like a different kind of thought process, and that was important to me. And I worked on something similar with Division Underground. That was procedurally generated, and we had to build rooms for that. And that was really challenging on how do you, because we had 4 entrances per room. So how do you do that? How do we say, keep it feeling fresh each time that you're there? So that was a big challenge. So that was part of the reason for it for us. And then the reason that RPGs, I feel, don't always have the best level design is it's more reliant on systems, right? And so for JRPGs, we'll first tackle with this. A lot of traditional JRPGs have that turn-based action, right? So it doesn't involve you as a player being able to go and interact with the level. You will have a combat area and you will both take your turns with the combat, which is perfectly fine. But that doesn't give much exploration for your levels. And even then, the mechanics you have are more like systems driven, and systems driven in a character, like how do you level up health, stats, attack speed, all of this. But that doesn't play around when you're exploring. And then when you're doing something like combat spaces, you try and push everything more to the side, so the players have space to throw their punches, throw their swords, these kind of elements. It doesn't mean you can't have great level design in close combat ones like God of War, Spider-Man. All of that has amazing level design, but they're not RPGs. They're more real-time action, so it encourages different things. And the way that you use like the Leviathan axe or your webbing, they use that for traversal and movement more so than just combat too. And it's very clear with RPGs, the open world versus the main missions too. So that's kind of why it's more reliant on the systems versus that of level design. And that's a big thing. Like even like other RPGs like the Elder Scrolls series or Fallout, like, man, not part of that was themed too, especially with Fallout. You know, it's destroyed nuclear wasteland. But I mean, Dan, you played Fallout just as much as I did, if not more so. You don't really interact with the space. You just kind of move through it. You have points where you'll meet enemies, but you don't like... That doesn't take away from the level design. Like we said, the systems are more involved with the combat versus the level, and that's kind of what I'm getting at with the points, mate.
100%, yeah. It's that kind of function over form, isn't it? So obviously the RPG's more functional because you've got that possibility to put your own stamp on it. There's a lot of freedom, a lot of different plays, styles, and things like that. Whereas obviously your form or your more design heavy aspects will be more targeted, restricted. Not in a sort of rail shooter sort of sense, but just in a, you've already got a finite number of possibilities sort of thing.
Exactly, mate, exactly. So we hope that answers your question there for us, my friend.
A follow-up question from Paolo as well on Hades. Which level design techniques can be applied in order to guide the player with this kind of camera?
Right. So for those of you who may not have played Hades or are listening to this from the audio side, I have a pen. We are really high tech in this podcast, so very cool. And then if I have like my hand as the camera, so it's isometric, so you're much further away. So you're not zoomed in and the player doesn't actually have any control of the camera. It's kind of fixed as well. So there's actually a lot, especially with guiding. You can have your local and, why do I forget the name for this? Global landmarks. You can all have them there. You can have stuff like paths drawn out to help with leading lines. Like you can have rivers throwing through the space. You can also have like enemies or just passive AI moving in a certain direction to lead you. And elements like that, there's still a lot you can translate. I think if you look at Hyperlight Drifter, they do so much amazing stuff. And it's the same kind of camera perspective as well. Now, the thing is that's very different with Hades is sometimes you don't necessarily need to worry too much about guidance because they're rooms, as we talked about earlier. So you're going to see and hit walls, and it's not that far. These rooms, you know, they're built at certain sizes. But like I said, just by having stuff with leading lines, you can have landmarks, you can have movement in your level. It's nice to hear that someone is drilling right above us just as we're recording. And you can have like sounds as well, just building on that, you know, drilling sound for us. So there's a lot you can still add there, mate. The camera will take some away, but a lot of the guiding principles can still just be added. It's just you need to think about them slightly differently. So, you know, don't you're not limited.
Nice. Cool. That clears us off with Hades.
Yep.
The next question comes from Leonard Savio, and he's asked, it's not really related to level design, more about work. How do you avoid burnout? How do you deal with it? And what do you have to do? What do you do to have constant ideas and motivation for your work?
So how to avoid burnout is like understand like we have... it's okay to take a break. A lot of the time we're like, oh, we should be doing this, we should be doing that. You know, work, personal work, all this stuff we think we should always be doing. Or like we see someone online and we're comparing ourselves to them, right? Like we've all had that and we're like, how are they doing all this amazing work and I should be doing more? No, relax, chill. It's okay to take time off and do that. Have other hobbies. Like, you know, you can see my bed here, but just underneath it is my kettlebell here. And so like I like to work out, don't get me wrong, I'm definitely still fat. I've got my COVID 20 pounds with me still, but like I enjoyed that. That makes me feel very relaxed. It allows me to collect my thoughts. I turn off my phone. I'm just playing music. No one can contact me during my workout because I don't want to hear anything. It allows me to drown out everything. So have something that entertains you like that. Like have something to take a break from this. And like I said, understand it's okay just to relax. You do not lose anything for relaxing. You need time to see other games, play other games, watch films, read a book. All of that helps make us better LDs and designers and creators because we get influence from everywhere. So I think we should encourage this, and in terms of motivation comes in ebbs and flows. Like it's okay not to be motivated. It's actually very normal, but it's ones where when you need to take a break, just take a break and understand what we do is very fun as well. Like there are stressful situations when we're making creative outlets, but it's enjoyable. So don't burn yourself out with it. Enjoy your time. And if you feel that, communicate with your team, communicate with your lead. They'll understand too. They will be like, oh yeah, no, okay. And put hard in breaks. Like, for me, I now have scheduled on my work calendar 1 to 2 p.m. I'm busy. No one can contact me because no meetings can be started there. If a meeting is tried to be started there, I say, look at my calendar, I'm busy. And so make your hard boundaries as well, because they need to understand it as much as you do. So don't be afraid of those things. So hobbies, I recommend actually just exercise, whether that just be going for a walk anyway. Just any form is good for you mentally. Consume other media, books, films, or play games, perfectly fine. Avoid social media at times because there's no point comparing yourself to people. It's just not a point. And set those hard boundaries for yourself and to communicate with your team. So those are my kind of rules. You got any things there, Dan, to add?
Yeah, that pretty much sums up everything that I was going to say, to be honest. Yeah, absolutely. Make time for yourself. If you keep throwing yourself into work, you're just going to get tired, you'll slip up, your quality of your work will deteriorate, and that's only going to look bad on you in the long run. Yep. So, yeah, by taking an hour here is better than having to redo a piece of work. It's going to take you an extra day, 2 days, a week, and then for the inspiration, just consume different media, go outside your comfort zone, see different aspects of life, challenge your viewpoint. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just be open to different things.
I mean, like, I'd say what I found very interesting, which just made me think a bit more, Dan, was like watching ice skaters, and rollerblading is a huge thing here in Poland, which like makes me feel like we're in the 80s, but like they love it out here. But like just seeing them move on roller skates is really cool to see, because it's just a different state of movement and flow, right? Like in games, we're constantly just running or walking, and I can't remember the name of this indie game. So someone, please put it in the comments below. But like you play this like almost dancer, and the way that they move is almost as if it's a ballet style of movement, and it was really just cool to see. So just think about how you move just differently. I thought it was exciting, and just again, like saying, just watching that, I cannot rollerblades like at all. I would fall on my ass and face, but like it's all fascinating. It's all different styles to think about and consume that stuff.
Nice.
Hit me up with the next, Dan.
Next question comes from Kim. Kim has asked, what are common mistakes you see in level design portfolios when people are trying to land their first job?
So a few things. The lack of a quality bar. So they throw everything on there rather than, putting their best work. So they throw up everything. So don't just limit that. Have it where it is only your best, but even if that's just 1 level, 3 levels, fine. There's no need to go 5, 6 things if they're not good. So that's the first thing, is quality bar. The layout is quite off. And what I mean by that is, and I've said this, I think on previous Q&As, Dan, we've had, is that your work should be the first thing that comes on that website. Like, trust me, as much time we spend making our websites or making things look cool, like me and Dan spoke about when we talked about the first book, the color, right? Like going from yellow to orange to red to show the significance of each step, but also that to relate with the colors that make combat, you know, yellow for warning, orange, and then red is just full anger. Trust me, no one was looking as much as that as myself and Dan were. Like, we're aware of that. But it's the same with when portfolios come in. As much as we'd love them to stick around, they won't, because they've got loads of other portfolios. So make sure they get to your work fast. Don't have ton of text in there. Just stop, because people won't read it. So you need to display it through either videos, pictures, something that they can quickly consume and get a really base understanding. Don't just put in like a 60-page design document, because no one's going to read that. So I wouldn't worry too much about it on that front. But those are some of the common mistakes. I think what else is other common mistakes is the fact that we go to universities, or a lot of people do. Your work looks the same. So you need to make sure that you have work that doesn't just look like, let alone all of your fellow students, but other students at different universities. So make sure you have personal work that shows that you think differently. Another thing is just having like pictures. Part of your portfolio is level designs. We want to understand how you design. So we need to see that. So that to me is the other big thing, is like breaking down your design. Why is the enemy over here on the left versus the right? Why is this space based in Greek architecture? These sort of things, like that's what we need to see and understand. We want to hear how you design. Even if your level's not the best, if you're able to break down your design and like really go through it, trust me, that will more likely land you a job than the best level, but it just has nice, sexy pictures taken of it. So those are my kind of big things there, Dan. What are you thinking as well, mate?
Yeah, immediately, I know you've already hit it with quality bar, but yeah, that's what came to my mind straight away was quality. You know, I've said it before, I'll say it again, you're only as good as your last piece of work.
Yeah.
You know, if you're throwing out, if you're approaching it with a throw everything at the wall, see what sticks kind of mentality, then that's never going to look good. You know, you need to show that you can hit quality, but then if you're going to throw more pieces out there, show that you can do it consistently. So that'd be mine.
Damn right. All right, awesome. What we got next then, mate?
Okay, back to Leonard from question 2, and his question this time: what can you do when your lead is giving you feedback or asking for a change in your level, but deep down you know they are not saying something useful or missing the point? How can you tell them without being impolite?
I'm not too sure I fully get the question, Dan. When he's saying like,
I think what he's asking is, when you're getting feedback from a lead, but you know deep down that the change they're asking for would maybe impact negatively, how can you challenge that in a respectful way?
So like, this is the thing, like it's just bringing up your point about it more. Like, it's okay to say, hey, I disagree, but like make sure you got the reasons why. Like, you have to have lists of reason why. When they go, okay, but why do you think I'm wrong with my point? And you're like, it just doesn't feel right. That answer will not cut it. So make sure you have points to it. You can be like, you know, I think this will mislead the player. It could confuse them. Or like, if we don't do this here, this makes it confusing further down the line. These, like, really make sure you've got an impact of it, of like why your level the way it is valid. So I think that's important with it. And most of the time, mate, like, it's not being impolite. Like, if you called them an arsehole, you know, stupid, that would be the impolite version. If you just say, hey man, I disagree, sorry, but here's why, everyone's going to be cool with it. I think the other thing though is sometimes, like, and this is the next part of his point, is think which hills are worth dying on for, because you may not agree on a lot of points, but sometimes it's just like, man, I don't, you know, this one doesn't really matter or change too much, so I will change these. Like, this is the thing, because when your lead is giving you feedback, it's very rare it's just one thing, right? It's going to be multiple things when you're getting feedback. So pick and choose which ones you actually think is valid, or which one's the bigger point you want to like really echo home. Because once you say, yes, I'll change 8 out of 10 and 2 out of 10 I don't agree with, that makes it easier to swallow for someone as well, because they're like, yeah, okay, well, we've talked about it, they don't think it. But sometimes also give it a try is another thing, because like when you try it and then maybe it doesn't work like you expected, you can be like, hey, I tried it, but we saw these results, so I think we should go back. That also can help too. So those are kind of a few things. So obviously make sure you've got solid reasons why you don't agree with it. Pick your battles to fight on, so you make changes, and then, like I said, a couple you don't want to do with it. And make sure you've tested it as well, because like, when you've had someone test it, that will help you build up better feedback. And then also, don't be afraid to make their changes, but just to try them out too. That's perfectly fine as well. So just have a separate version of the level there. So I hope that's helped there. Any more to add, Daniel, mate?
Yeah, I just think, when receiving feedback, there's a certain emotional maturity that you've got to have to be able to take that on board and grow with it. Yeah. You've got to have a real clear image in your head of why you're fighting for something. Because sometimes, it could be a situation where maybe you can't see the wood for the trees, sort of thing. So maybe the fresh pair of eyes are giving you the feedback and saying something that would be better, not to hurt you, but just because maybe it's an avenue you've not explored. So yeah, being open to trying out, the feedback is always a positive. But if deep down you know that is going to impact negatively, like you said, having clear points and a structured argument of factual evidence, can't be disputed, and then your passion by making that argument, a lot of the time will translate favorably for you. People listen when people are passionate, and if your lead sees that actually you're willing to push back, you've got a strong list of counter arguments, and you're passionate enough to fight for it, then that's likely to be taken on board anyway.
For sure. And the other thing is, you might actually find a happy medium as well, because you might be like, okay, I see your points, but this still doesn't work because of X, Y, and Z. And then you'll find like a happy medium. Like a few weeks ago, me and my lead were having a discussion about a section of my level. And, I can't say too much other than I just wanted the players to go underground for this one example. And we were and ahhing because someone else wanted us to go just through a door. And I was like, no, there's a reason I didn't want that. But like, we came together to make it work. So it all came together because we'd both seen the pros and the cons, and then we found that happy medium too. So don't be afraid to try that as well, because if you also invite your lead to try solve the problem with you, that's even better too, because they feel involved, they feel listened to, and together you're probably going to, two heads are better than one, right? So that works.
Absolutely.
All right, Dan, I think that's all the questions we have now there for this episode, mate. For anyone who has left questions, we will be coming back to them. Don't feel that we've ignored them. We're just pacing them out. So next Q&A, if we didn't answer them in this one, we will come back and answer them in our next one, guys. So please don't fret. We know that there's some great questions here. And if you do want more, again, if you're part of the community, you can just spam it in the podcast question channel, go through all the time, add it anytime you want. We will just eventually come through with them and make sure we get them done. So yeah, thank you very much, everyone. And cheers, Dan, for being here as always, mate.
It's been a pleasure. Always is.
Always, mate. All right, everyone, if you want to contact us, you can do so for me on Twitter at MaxPairs. Dan, your Twitter handle, sir?
Doward24.
Awesome. And then if you do want to support the podcast, please do so at patreon.com/level design lobby. Links to that will be down below. If you do want to help us as well, you can do so by subscribing on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you listen to the podcast. Please subscribe. And if you want to rate us as well, either like the video or give us that 5-star, because baby, we deserve it, then please do so. And yeah, thank you so much for everyone's support, and we'll catch you all next time.